Premier League action then this weekend. Early start for the league leaders. They're away against Leeds, Wolves, Bournemouth, Brighton, Everton, Chelsea, West Ham, Liverpool, Newcastle rounds up the day at Anfield. Sunday sees Aston Villa against Brentford, United, Fulham, Nottingham Forest against Crystal Palace. Monday it's Sunderland against Burnley. But let's focus on the late game, shall we, on Sunday. Tottenham Hotspur against Manchester City. Nedum, it's weird because you haven't been on for a while. And whilst Manchester City have got worse, their position in the title race has got better.
That's quite well put for you, to be honest. But yeah, I think it's a valid point. And for Arsenal, in these last few weeks, you would have thought that given the stumblings of City, the general stumblings to a certain extent of Villa, they should probably have a 10-plus point gap now between themselves and others. They've been the most consistent side, and they should be rewarded as such. But no, somehow they're still very much in this title race. Even look at the goal difference and the 4 points. Come the end of Sunday, that could be 1 point, but then on the other side of it, it could be 7 again. Because one thing about Man City and Spurs, the games at that Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Spurs have really fancied their chances against City. I think City have only beaten them once there in the Premier League since they moved. But, if they're going to be a side that's going to be winning the Premier League, these chances that keep sort of landing at their feet, they can't keep turning them down forever. They have to go to Spurs. They have to find a way to win that game. Because, I expect Arsenal to go to Leeds and to do well and to win that game. So the pressure's going to be on. And if they want to win league title, they can't really afford to drop many more points. So Sunday, roll on, 3 points or nothing else.
Right. You're in a court of law now.
Wow.
You're in a court of law. Raise your right hand. Raise your right hand. Are City capable of putting a run together to pressure this Arsenal team?
Why does he have
Raise your right hand.
Why does he have to be under oath to say that?
You're under oath. Can City, come on, can they put some sort of title chance together?
Your Honour, the difference between can they and will they could be quite broad at this moment in time, and I'm going to plead the fifth and not say anything else about this matter. But there is a chance, and that's all you need
giving yourself,
sometimes.
there's still hope. There's still hope, Nedum.
Oh, yeah, there's always hope. But put it one way. Regardless of what Tottenham have done in the Champions League, right, Manchester City should go there, even with their issues, even with areas of their team that have not functioned properly, certainly recently. They should still go there and take this Tottenham team apart. Because they have been terrible in the Premier League. They've been dreadful at home. They relied on a late Romero header or late goal to get a 2-2 draw at almost certainly relegated Burley. And that's been the story of their season. This Champions League is some sort of salvation for Thomas Frank. It's just came about like this has sort of saved them. But their league form, their league position does not lie. They are, yes, they have some players coming back, like Solanke and one or two others. But they are not a good side. They're a manager that I don't think the players believe in. The fans certainly don't believe in him. And I don't think he believes that he's the man for that job, if I'm being honest. And I think City should, particularly if they can get Erling Haaland firing again, should take them apart. And as Nedum said, they need to. They need to do it because these teams can't rely on Arsenal slipping up. They might do. Arsenal, they might do. But as a chasing pack, you can't rely on that. And City have to go out and do it for themselves.
If they're going to do it, obviously, Nedum, is it just an obvious answer? They just need to keep clean sheets?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question. I wouldn't necessarily say clean sheets as such, because there's some games, for example, where defensively you could be good but still concede. I think in some ways, like this last, say, month where they've not been doing as well, maybe it's because Haaland hasn't been taking some of his chances. I think City themselves have been guilty of that to a certain extent. Defensively, there have been a couple of games in there, especially that United game, where it's basically like the doors are wide open, go and do as you please. But they'd be hoping with the likes of Mark Gahey being in now, Ruben Diaz to be coming in the next couple of weeks, that maybe defensively, and even Matheus Nunes, I wouldn't have thought Matheus Nunes would be a big return for City in terms of boosting how they play. But yeah, I'm not necessarily going to live and die by those clean sheets, but I will say, if their attack clicks into gear, they are the top scorers in the Premier League right now, and teams will concede in this back half of the season. But if they find a way to be scoring 2 goals a game, 3 goals a game, I doubt that they'll be conceding 2 and 3 and dropping too many points between now and the end of the season, in my opinion.
Well, Matheus Nunes is a big player to come back, but he shouldn't be.
That's where they're at.
That's where they're at. I mean, he's a good player. He's not a fullback, but they did miss him in the Manchester derby in particular, and other games. I think he had the flu, or he was unwell, and the day of that game couldn't play. But that's not where they should be. That they're relying on a guy who is really a weak point of their team. The fullback positions are a weak point, regardless of how Nico O'Reilly has done at left back at times, certainly early in the season. It shouldn't be a case where we're saying, boy, Matheus Nunes needs to come back because we need him at right back. They should, for want of repeating myself, they should have addressed that. And Rico Lewis has come in at times, and when he first came into the team as a youngster, and it was all sort of energetic, and it was all new, and it was fresh, and he looked good. But I think doing that over a longer period and coming in, as he has done recently at times, has been a struggle for him. And I think that's why he hasn't played. So yeah, I mean, they have to address these areas within the personnel they have. Because if they don't, it's quite simple. They just do not win this Premier League, and they certainly won't win the Champions League unless they can sort these areas out.
I've been told you want to talk about Liverpool-Newcastle.
Well, if I want to, no, I mean, well, I was going to talk about everybody because I was going to take on the Kieran Gibbs sort of way of watching football.
Don't take that.
Where you just watch all the golf games. Look, I think this is a huge game. Again, a bit like Tottenham. I think you can forget Liverpool's Champions League run, right? The proof in the pudding is your Premier League. And in their Premier League, they had an unbeaten run. There was a lot of draws, but they lost last time out at Burley. And what was the issues? The issues were the same old problems that's afflicted them for all of the season. Big mistakes from key players, and new guys like Kerkez getting cut out and Van Dijk throwing his up. So and Van Dijk wanting a free kick here. That's all pie in the sky. There's no foul in there. But this, to me, encapsulates Liverpool's season and where they are more than what the Champions League did. More than beating Karabag 6-0, more than beating an off-colour Inter side in Milan. More than any of that, their Premier League form, or lack of, I think is a bigger barometer of where they are. And this is a game where if Newcastle win, they go above them in goal difference. So it's about who's going to have the momentum for the second half of the season to finish in the Champions League places. Because neither of those two sides are winning the Premier League. Not a cat and house chance. So this is a huge game for momentum to get into that top 4 or 5, whatever it is, for the Champions League football. And to try and quell some of those doubters out there that keep saying about Arne Slot, you're not figuring it out. You're not figuring it out. You can't figure out Mo Salah. You can't figure out your front line. You can't figure out Florian Wirtz, no matter what people say. And your big bad captain is continuing to make mistakes. Is that going to continue this weekend against a pretty good Newcastle side?
What do you think, Nedum?
I think that's fair. I think something that was quite interesting to see was Eddie Howe making changes in midweek for that game against PSG, almost as if he was taking the game against Liverpool on the weekend as being the priority, which I thought was very, very interesting, with some of the players like Gordon and others, and Barnes coming off the bench. Guimaraes as well, not being on the bench, but not necessarily not getting involved, getting in minutes either. So I think he really fancies his chances, and it's understandable. I think the highlights that we just saw there from that Liverpool game, for example, game against Bournemouth, you can see that they're a team that you can go and get at. I think some of the mistakes that we're seeing from this year, we've not seen them play like this for such a long time. But as every week passes where the mistakes are still showing, there's more belief that the opposition will take. And I think Newcastle will fully fancy themselves to be able to go to Anfield and, cause that sort of disruption and shock that would, take them above Liverpool, as Craig said.
I also wanted to talk about Chelsea-West Ham.
Yeah,
but that's taken us over the 23 minutes you told me.
Can you see? I've already crossed it out. Right, no, we're not doing that.